So
I
now
love
you
it.
know.
Thank you for
Okay.
sharing.
All right. Thank you.
All right, I got Sandra just coming in. Y'all, we got a big class.
Oh,
Sandra. All right. I see you, Gwen.
Good morning. Good morning, Jennifer. How are you? Happy
Good.
New Year.
Gwen, I've been trying to get in touch with you to tell you about the advanced class. So let's talk afterwards if possible.
That's fine with me.
Okay. All right. Welcome, Sandra. If you will and can, turn on your camera so I'll make sure to know that you're safe. I'm going to show y'all some of the seated versions like we talked about last week because I do have my chair in here today. Let me not fall over it. Let's go ahead and get started by warming up, open and closing our hands, whether you're seated or standing. It's just a matter of moving your joints, whether you're pumping your arms. You can be in control of how high you lift your knees. If you're seated, lifting your knees may be difficult. That is a big movement. That was it, is as if you're pulling your knee up to your chest when you're standing. So that equates the same way when you're seated. So if that's too much, just step out and in, tap your toes, tap your heels, anything to get that body moving and get that blood flowing. It's not so cold now, but when the environment is cold, it affects our muscles. So we may need to spend a little bit more time warming up. I brought in the space heater. You see that little black box down there before class started to warm up the air in here so that my muscles are warm. The reason why we warm up our muscles is it reduces our chance of injury. And so just like always, we want to listen to our bodies. We never want to push ourselves beyond our level of comfort. Remember, we're not in a contest here. Whatever you do, you're not trying to keep up with me or anybody else in the class. I'll guide you through movements. I'll give you choices, and you stay within your comfort zone. If you ever need a break, take a break. You can just sit and watch. Sometimes just thinking about the movement can help with your mobility. So never discount that. All right. So we should be good and warmed up doing those movements. Now we're going to do some stretching. We stretch our major joints, 2 stretches for our neck, 2 for our shoulders, 2 for our 2 for our spine, 2 for our hips, and 2 for our knees, and 2 for our ankles. All right, so let's get in that nice stable stance. And by that I mean, and even if you're seated, you can be in a nice stable stance. So if you're seated, then your feet are still about hip width apart. If you're standing, hip width apart. You can even stand and hold your chair, but still your feet are about hip width apart. That supports your body weight in the safest way. And you may feel a little more comfortable with your feet a little closer, a little further apart. You just find that exact space where you feel supported. Also, thinking about your posture, you want to have a nice upright posture, like a string that pulls up to the ceiling and down to the floor. Your shoulders are relaxed throughout our movements. We want to think about breath. Making an effort to breathe throughout our movements, catching yourself, holding your breath. That happens often whenever you're learning something new. So just check in and make sure you're breathing every now and again. And we'll talk more about diaphragmatic breathing specifically, but let's just practice breathing before we get real technical about how deep. Starting with our neck, Our hands come up, palms down. We turn and pull them towards our chin and chest. Turn, push away from our bodies, and follow those hands all the way down, chin towards our chest. Come back up, inhale, and exhale whenever you're ready. Coming down, feeling that little stretch in the back of your neck. These first 3 sets of stretches, they can easily be done seated. There's no leg movements. So if you want to start seated and then stand up when we get to our lower body, that's sometimes a good choice for people who have problems with endurance. Our other neck exercise starts out that same way. Bring it towards our chin and chest. Drop one hand to our hip, and let me move a little bit closer. We're going to follow this hand as we look towards that shoulder, keeping our body forward. Only our head is moving to the side. Come to the front, switch hands, and follow this hand to the as we look towards that shoulder. Now, you don't have to go as far as you can go. Go until you feel that nice or just a little bit of a stretch, and then come back to center. So I get to that place where I feel a little stretch, hold it a second, and then come back to center. The more you practice this, the more mobile your neck will become. So you may go a little bit further the more you practice this movement. That just helps. You know, sometimes our neck will get so stiff, we'll get headaches and shoulder aches, and will just hurt. And it's just a matter of that lack of mobility where we're not stretching and we're holding tension. So keep that in mind. That movement can be done anytime. I practice it a lot sitting at my desk, just stretching my neck, looking from side to side. Don't even have to add that hand movement. The hand movement makes it Tai Chi. That gives it that feeling of Tai Chi. But just stretching that neck is really what's most important here. Chin towards your chest stretches the different muscles in the back of your neck. Next is our shoulders. I have my hands to my side, and I'm going to roll forward, small circles. I try to think of the size of a quarter as I roll forward, and then roll back. That probably feels like a little massage you give yourself. Rolling those shoulders back. Remember to breathe as you do these movements. Try not to hold your breath. Always end on that roll back. That helps reset your posture too. Our other shoulder exercise, we have our hands to our side. We're going to bring our hands up, palms up, and then push down in front of us. This is a great one to practice breath, inhaling as you come up and exhaling as you push down. Remember to keep your shoulders nice and relaxed, not holding any tension there. Now for our spine, it involves us holding this ball. Our hands are facing each other as we hold this imaginary ball. Remember, not keeping any tension in our shoulders. So you can hold your ball low if that feels most comfortable. You can hold your ball a little higher if that's more comfortable, as long as you're not pulling your shoulders up and holding tension there. You want your shoulders to be nice and relaxed. So we're going to stretch our spine vertically. The hand that's on top of our ball will push down to the side, and notice I'm keeping that soft bend in my elbow. And this hand that's on bottom of our ball follows our spine up and pushes up towards the ceiling. Notice this soft bend here too. So we're not fully extending our joints as we stretch that spine. Come back to our ball. And now switch. So the other hand pushes up towards the ceiling, keeping that soft bend, and the other hand pushes down towards the ground. I also have a nice soft bend in my knees, so I don't lock my joints. The elbow and the knee joints are often the joints that we lock. So just keep that in mind, to keep those joints nice and open and soft, so we can allow the energy to flow through our bodies. As far as breathing goes, I like to inhale as I come to my ball and exhale as I separate. And I feel like I can make that stretch a little deeper. Remember, I record our class and upload it to the YouTube page. I do it typically as soon as class is over. And so it will be available at least by the end of the day, if not directly after for you to refer to. Or if some reason you miss class, you can go to that page and watch it so you don't feel like you've missed anything. All right, back to our ball. We're going to now stretch our spine horizontally. So our ball's nice in the middle. The hand that's on top tells us what direction we're going. So we're taking that ball, only moving our torso just a short ride till we get just above our knee, switching our hands, then coming across body to just above that other knee, switch hands. So you might feel like you're not doing enough here, but that's the thing with Tai Chi. Less is more, or less is better in Tai Chi. We're not trying to take this ball as far as we can, because we can start hurting our spine, hurting our knee, and it goes against what we're trying to do here. We sure aren't trying to hurt ourselves. As we go side to side, just do a quick check-in to make sure that you're not holding tension in those shoulders. Check your spine, make sure it's still upright. Your weight should be on both feet. Nice soft bend in your knees. As simple as some of these movements look, there's a whole lot to think about, isn't there? Our necks, so those are our upper body exercises. Those were 2 for our necks, 2 for our shoulders. Well, we only have 1 neck. 2 for our neck, shoulders, and spine. So there, as you see, we had no leg movements other than our legs holding our weight. So they can be done in a chair exactly that same way. The difference is you're seated, your feet are planted on the floor, you have your feet about shoulder width apart. So all of those movements, whether it be our neck movement, going side to side, rolling the shoulders forward and back, big shoulder circle, stretching the spine. I did that backwards. And then side to side. Okay, so all of those are the exact same seated, the way we just did those. Where it changes a little bit is when we start getting to our lower body, the difference between seated and standing Tai Chi. Obviously, because we're starting to do weight transfer. Weight transfer is one of our principles, and weight transfer is where the magic happens. Weight transfer is what helps our muscles get strong and become stabilizers, which helps keep us from falling. Can you increase your muscle strength seated in your legs? Yes. And it may sound funny. It may sound like surely that's not possible, but you can by pushing that foot into the floor as if you were transferring weight to one leg as a standing Tai Chi person, and releasing that pressure and pushing that other foot into the floor. Another option is to, in between standing and seated, is using your chair for support. So you have a nice stable chair, one that's not going to move. Check your floor. I have a carpeted floor here, and the feet on that chair has rubber feet. So it's not going anywhere. I've been in classes where the wood or the floor is wood or linoleum, and it's very slippery. So if you have a floor that's not carpeted, check to make sure your chair's not going to move if you put any pressure to it. Don't have a chair that has wheels, because that's definitely going to push across your floor, and we don't want you to fall. So you want a nice stable chair. Also, and I hadn't said this today, just making sure that nothing's on the floor. If you're in your home, you're in the place where most falls happen. Why do they happen mostly at your house? It's because that's where we're most comfortable. If you're a person that uses a cane, a walker, even a wheelchair sometimes, the different assistive devices, a lot of times you will ditch it in your house because you feel most comfortable. That increases your chance of falling. If you're in your home, depending on who lives there or who has visited, they may have left something in the floor for you to fall over. Just give it a nice little look and make sure nothing there is unsafe. If you have a pet and they like to be right up under your feet, maybe they don't want to be in Tai Chi class. Maybe they can find somewhere else to be. Or be conscious that they are under your feet. Because that is another reason why people fall, is your pets. They get up under your feet. So you can stand holding your chair, skipping hand movements, and then that way you have that to rely on, and it decreases your fear of falling by having that. I have this table here for just in case I need to put my hand down. Sometimes I have relied on my wall. So just see what you have available in your house that can help make you feel safer and can catch you if you lose your balance. So lower body exercises, starting with our hips. This is where we really start doing that weight transfer. Let me show you the standing version, then I'll show you the seated. So what we're going to do is transfer our weight, shift our weight to one leg. The other foot, we place the heel forward and our hands go back. That's a counterbalance. We pause in the middle, then we put our toe back like a kickstand while our hands forward. Pause in the middle, heel forward, pause, toe back, hands forward. Now, if you're seated, you're not going to put your toe back. You'll fall out of your chair. So this movement done seated has our heel forward with our hands back. And then we come back to that seated position. You can put your hands forward. So here and here. Now, when you're doing this seated, the leg that's not moving, you will push into the floor to increase the use of that muscle. It replicates holding the weight of when we're standing. So I shift that weight to one leg. If you're seated, you push that leg into the floor. Heel forward, hands back. Pause in the middle. And toe back, hands forward. Remember, this is the movement you don't do whenever you're seated because you fall out your chair. Pause and toe back. If you're standing using your chair, here I'll have the imaginary chair. That way you don't have to pretend you can see me through that chair. But this is my imaginary chair. I'm skipping the hand movement. I shift the weight, heel forward, pause, toe, shift, heel, pause, toe. So I skip the hand movement. Those are your choices. Moving forward, I'll do the standing version. And if you forget what the seated version looks like, just ask me and I'll repeat it. Unless we have a class that's all seated, I'll do the opposite. So you just let me know what you need. So another way you can do that movement is one at the time. So I shift the weight, heel, pause, toe, back to center, shift, heel, middle, pause, and toe. So I do one at the time, or I can do 3 in a row. Either is fine. When we do 3 in a row, that works on our endurance because it's a lot to hold our weight for 3, what I call leg swings. But the other way allows us to practice more weight transfer, which just is a different way of working that muscle. So one time you might do it one way, and the other time you may do it the other. So I will lead you, but remember you can always make alternate choices that suit you. Next tip exercise involves weight transfer, shifting the weight to one leg, and we'll actually tap the toe out that does not have weight, shift, tap the toe that doesn't have weight. Now, if you're standing, of course, you're skipping the hand movement that I haven't showed you yet. So that will look just how I just showed it to you. If you're seated, this may not be comfortable for you to tap out. It may hurt your hips. So what you can do instead of stepping out is lay your knee out. Now, by laying that knee out, you'll feel a very strong stretch in your hip flexor. You probably feel a little bit of stretch in that knee. Bring that leg up and then lay your other knee out, stretching that hip flexor. Even if you're capable of doing this fully standing, you may find a benefit from stretching your hip flexor this way. So give it a try. Sometimes our hips will be so tight because we are a people that likes to sit down. We're a people that's in a car a lot. So we get really stiff in our hips. And when our hips get stiff, it can cause lower back pain because the way we were made, God just interconnected our muscles. And so when one muscle gets too tight, it pulls on the muscles that are connected to those. So we may feel pain, not in the place where we have to work on. So keep that in mind. You may be really tight in your hamstrings, but feel pain in the front of your hips. That's why stretching is so important. And these are our stretches that we do every single time. So we have a hand movement where we stack our hands and we go in the direction of the weight shift. Tap, bring it back, switch hands, shift. Notice my body's staying upright. I'm not leaning with the weight shift. Tap, switch. And I know I'm talking a whole lot, but I need you to know the specifics of these movements, especially if you've never done them before. I want to make sure you're doing them safely. I want to make sure you know what your choices are. Just caught myself holding my breath. Just hard to breathe and talk. Well, see, that's that nice weight shift. Even if you don't do the hand movements and hold to your chair, keeping that upright posture, shifting the weight, even if you don't pick and lift and tap that toe, shifting the weight, shifting the weight, shifting the weight. Slow, smooth, and continuous movement. That's what helps get those muscles stronger so that It will help improve your balance and your coordination when you have strong muscles. The stretching helps with the mobility, reducing the tension, reducing the stiffness. All right, those were for our hips. Now for our knees. So we have our loose fist. Anytime we have a fist in Tai Chi, it's loose, like an egg we're holding that we don't want to break. I keep mine down by my hips. As long as there's no tension in our shoulders, you can keep them up a little higher. The main thing is not holding tension, which squeezing our fist would be tension. So we're going to shift our weight to one leg, lift and tap your toe, and the opposite hand punches out. Soft bend, we're not punching out and locking our joints. Nice soft bend in that arm. Bring it back, shift, lift, tap and punch, bring it back. Now, if you're seated, you'll do the same thing. You'll tap that toe out in the air. You don't have to tap it to the ground. Shift, lift, tap and punch. When you're standing, it's nicer to keep your foot closer to the ground. When you're seated, it's nicer to have it a little elevated. You don't feel like you're slipping out of your chair. Remember, when you're seated, that the foot that we transfer our weight to standing is the foot that you will push into the floor as a seated person. So here I have, I'll push this foot into the floor so I can tap that toe out. And notice it's kind of hovering over the floor. It's not tapping the floor, but the foot that's not moving, I'm pushing into the floor. You will realize that that helps you be more stable whenever you have that foot pushed into the floor. So it helps you be more stable, but it also increases your muscle strength just because you're using it. The next one for our knees, we shift. This time we step, a nice small step forward, heel toe, both feet flat on the floor, and they will remain flat on the floor as you shift weight to the front foot and punch the opposite hand. So I'm going to turn to the side. Shift, step, shift and punch, bring it back, side by side. Shift, step, shift and punch, bring it back, side by side. Now, if you're seated, you are not going to shift weight. You're not going to shift weight forward because you'll fall out your chair. So what do seated is you put your heel out as you punch the opposite hand, bring it back, shift weight or push this foot into the floor, put your heel out. So that's the difference whenever you're seated. You put your toe forward and then you put your heel forward. Because you're not going to step out of your chair, shift weight, and come back because you'll fall out. So those are for our knees. Last is for our ankles. There's no hand movements. I hold my hands here in front of me. You can hold yours wherever you feel comfortable. We shift weight and we rock that foot, heel toe, heel toe. Bring the foot back, shift weight, and other foot, heel toe. So if you're seated, you can put those feet in the air, both of them, if you feel comfortable. Scooch back in your chair so your legs are supported by that chair, and just rotate your ankles side to side. Shift the weight. Other ankle exercise is big toe, little toe. So we're going side to side. Side to side. Bring it back, shift the weight, other foot, little toe, big toe. Again, this helps with the mobility, flexibility of our ankle joint. We take our ankle joint for granted because it's farthest away from our head, but it is a weight-bearing joint, much like our hips and our knees. So we want to make sure the muscles that surround those joints are strong. And that is how Tai Chi can help with the pain of arthritis, specifically in your hip, knee joints, because your muscles are strong and support that joint and can help take some of that pressure off that can be painful. So those are our warm-up exercises. Any questions about those? I know I throw a lot of information out to you, and in the beginning it seems very overwhelming. But once I say it enough times, we do it enough times, it'll start clicking. It probably feels a little awkward right now if this is the first time doing it, but that's okay. It's supposed to feel awkward. When you've never done certain movements before, it will. So, do we have any questions about any of those? All right, those are the ones we'll do every time. They'll take a lot less time as we get used to the movements. Now let's begin learning our Tai Chi series of movement. Now remember, that's what Tai Chi is. It is a series of movements done in a certain order. Our first movement is called commencement, and it looks like this. Nice stable stance, upright posture, my weight's on both feet, my hands are to my side. Did a breath check, making sure no tension are in my shoulders. Here's what it looks like. Commencement. So it's a step forward. That's what our footwork is a step forward. So I shift my weight to my right foot. I step forward left, I shift left, and I bring that right foot forward. Now, if you're seated, you're not going to step out of your chair. But anytime I shift weight to a leg, that's whenever you would push that foot into the floor. Now, I probably struggle the most doing seated Tai Chi with pushing the feet into the floor. So my best advice for seated is do the best that you can with the pushing the feet into the floor as we shift weight. Don't get overwhelmed thinking about, oh gosh, am I supposed to be right or left, or oh gosh, I'm still on left. You know, cut yourself some slack. Just do the shift and the release and shift and the release as you feel natural and comfortable, regardless of what's going on up top. Or forget the pushing the feet into the floor. Just do the hand movements and then come back later and practice pushing those feet into the floor. That way you can separate it out, because it can be overwhelming doing the feet and the hands, especially seated. That's where I struggle the most, probably because I have the least amount of practice. So standing, we shift right, step forward left, shift left, and right foot forward. I stayed upright. Now, whenever you step forward, there's a tendency to want to lean forward. Don't. Do not lean forward. Anytime you're leaning forward, you're going towards falling. So do your best always to have nice upright posture. So again, footwork, shift right, step left, shift left, right foot forward. Now in Tai Chi, we have what's called an empty step. An empty step is when you step but you don't give weight to it. That empty step is a way for you to kind of check that floor, make sure you didn't just step on something or into a hole before you commit weight to it. Once you commit that weight to it, then you increase your chances of fall. So practicing that empty step is a good thing. So when we normally walk, we do what's called controlled falling, because man, we're just walking. We give it weight just as soon as we put that foot to the floor. And most often it works out. But in Tai Chi, there's the weight shift step. That's an empty step, so no weight is there yet. Now we give it weight. Bring the foot forward. Even that's an empty step. And then we give weight to it. So it may be just a little bit of a second where you don't have weight to it yet, but practice that empty step. So it'll be so important later as we learn our advanced movements where we have a follow step that gets no weight before we step it back. And so being able to practice having a foot down but not weight, having the weight on this other foot helps strengthen that muscle too. So lots of good things happen when we practice those principles of our Tai Chi. And here it is weight transfer, empty step, now give it weight. Bring the foot forward, empty step, give weight to both feet. So that's the footwork of commencement. The hand work, we start with our hands to our side. I'm going to turn sideways and show you. We bring our hands up facing each other. Notice there's a soft bend in that elbow. We're not locked out. Soft bend. So our hands come up facing each other. They come down. You can think of this two ways. You can bring it towards your hips, or you can think of it as drawing a U. And then, because we'll come up, out, and back in. All right, so from the top, here's what we're doing. Our hands face each other this whole time, and we have that soft bend in our elbow. We never lock our joint. We bring our hands up, down, in, up, out, and back in. You see a little bit of wrist movement there, right? You don't have to add that wrist movement, but why not if you can? Because then that helps with maybe a little arthritis you have in that joint. So when we bring our hands up, our fingers are more pointed down. When we bring our hands up, our fingers are more pointed up. Bring it up, out, my fingers are pointed out. And when I come back, I turn my hands, fingers up. So that gave me a little bit of wrist movement. If that's not comfortable for you, then you'll come up. Let me just stay to the side. Up. See, I'm not doing my wrist. And it's not wrong. Okay. So there's different ways of doing our Tai Chi. We do end with our hands pointed up because our next movement is open and close, where our hands open and close. And it's as easy as that. So footwork, remember, we shift right, step left, shift left, right foot forward. We got that first, we got that step, we got that footwork. Now our hand work, remember, starts to our side. We bring our hands up, down, in, up, out, and back in, leading us to open and close. But we want to put it with our feet. So here's how we do that. Our hands come up, nothing happening with our feet. It's when they come down that we shift right. Before we bring our hands in, we step. Now we bring our hands in and up. When we shift to that front foot, that left foot. We do that at the same time that we take our hands out. We bring the right foot forward and our hands come back. Open, close. All right, let's put it together. And commence. Hands come up, down, shift right. Step left, hands come in and up. Shift left as they go out. Right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. Again, commence. Hands up, down, shift right. Step left, hands come in and up. Shift left as they go out. Right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. And again, commence. Hands come up, down, shift right. Step left, hands come in and up. Shift left as those hands go out. Right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. So in that movement, we practice a couple of things that are our principles. Under movement control, slow, smooth, continuous. That is the nature of our movements. We also practice weight transfer, and we keep our bodies upright. No matter where our weight is headed or coming or going, we keep our bodies upright and practice that upright posture. So we have also our open joints where we don't block our knees or our elbows. So those are principles that we practice even in our warm-ups. But when it comes to our movements, we always practice principles because we want all those good benefits from Tai Chi. And again, commence. Hands up, down, shift right. Step left, hands come in and up. Shift left as they go out. Right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. How's it feeling? Especially those who've never done it before. So I'm going to show you seated. So if you want to stay standing, practice what we were just doing, but seated, remember, I still have a nice stable stance. My feet are still hip width apart. I have good posture. I'm not on the edge of my chair because I'm not trying to flip my chair forward, but I want to be far enough in that chair that my feet are stable on the floor as if I were standing. Start out that same way. Hands up, down, in, up, out, back in, open and close. So I didn't do a thing to my legs just now. I left my legs stable on that floor. What I could do is push my feet into the floor as I go through the movements. Hands come up, down and push, and switch, and switch, and switch. Release as I open and close. So when I was saying switch, that's what was happening with my legs. I was going from pushing this foot into the floor, releasing and switching and pushing this foot into the floor. So with the change of direction of my arms, I let that guide me. Okay, so push, switch, 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 release for open and close. So that's how you can incorporate your feet. But just remember, if that's just too much, because it's a lot, have your legs nice and stable. Do the upper body movement. Up, down, in, up, out, in, open and close. You may find you'll naturally kind of give a little push to those legs just for self-preservation of keeping yourself stable as you move those arms. Just find your way with it and what feels comfortable for you. Don't push yourself so far out of your comfort zone that you hate it. But give yourself some time, if you're a seated Tai Chi person, to experience the push in the feet into the floor, because that truly is how you engage or how you make your muscles stronger. If you never engage your muscle, it's not going to get stronger. Use it, lose it, right? And so sometimes we have to do modifications within our comfort zone that are outside of the movement and how Dr. Lamb planned it to be, but we're doing it our way so that we can use our muscle and make it work for us, with the goal being that we're going to try it standing one day, even if we're skipping the hand movements and doing it with the chair, and working our way to that full standing version. So let's do it again. Commence. Up, down, shift right, step left, in, up. Now shift left as you go out, right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. So that open and close is kind of a freebie gift. It's like, oh gosh, that commencement has a lot going on there. Yay, I can take a break and just breathe as I open and close my hands. And that is what is intended for it to be a breath. It can also be a time for you to check in with your feet to make sure your feet are still in a nice stable stance. It's not so much when we do commencement that our feet get out of whack, but whenever we start to do some of our more advanced moves that we notice, oops, I stepped in a little too close. Give me an open and close so I can make the adjustment to be at a more stable stance. Because we know if our feet are too close together, then we're going to feel a little bit of wobble. If our feet are way too far apart, then we're going to have a hard time moving. So we find that nice medium where we feel stable on our feet. If you're ever out and about, find yourself standing maybe a long time, I always think of line at Walmart. This is a nice stable stance that decreases your chance of falling, but a staggered stance where one foot is up, out a little forward, this is an even more stable stance. You have your upright posture, your feet are hip width apart, but one is stepped a little forward into a staggered stance. This is your most stable stance. That way, if somebody bumps into you, then you can bend into a leg and not fall. If your feet are close together and you have your locked knees, somebody bumps into you, boom, you're more likely to fall. So keep those things in mind as we learn things in Tai Chi. I'll tell you how to use them outside in the real world to help keep yourself safe. Okay, so keep that in mind. Nice, stable, upright posture, stable stance. That staggered stance is very stable, as well as here. Little bit of bend in your knee. That's going to give you a place to absorb movement if you need to absorb any kind of impact. All right. Any questions about what we learned today with our warm-up, cool down, or warm-up, our stretches for our neck, shoulders, spine, hips, knees, and ankles? We'll do those every time. And then we started with our commencement and open and close. That's our first two moves. Are we good?
Jennifer?
Am I that good of a teacher?
Okay, Jennifer, can you hear
Yes,
me?
ma'am. Uh-huh.
Can you please, this is Sandra, can you please turn to the side and do the hand movements for the commencement for me?
For commencement? Yes,
Aside.
ma'am.
Yes,
All right,
please.
I'm going
Thank
to
you.
do the feet and the arm work for commencement.
Okay.
So we start with that nice stable stance. upright posture. We're going to come up, down, shift right, step left, hands come in and up, shift left as they go out, right foot forward, hands come back, open and close. Let me do it again.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
bends. Hands come up, down, shift right, step left, hands come in and up, shift left as they go out, right foot forward, hands come back, open and close.
Thank you.
Is that helpful, Sandra?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Some people have a preference of forward facing, back facing. There are different versions on the YouTube page. And if you see something that's missing, let me know and I'll be happy to add it. But every movement is broke down into a video. Even neck stretches is a video, shoulder stretches is a video. So every movement is broke down into a separate video. So you may have 10 or 15 minutes where you're just doing those. But like I said, if you see something that's missing, something you would like to be there, let me know and I can add them. All right, finally, we'll do cool down and we give ourselves a nice little fist massage. You control how far you bring your knees up to punch that little muscle, helps break up lactic acid, and lactic acid is what makes our muscles sore. Now, if you're not used to doing a lot of weight transfer, you'll probably be sore from doing Tai Chi. So this can help you break up that soreness. The next thing we do is gather tension. We gather it, we purposely tense up, and then we release it. And reminding ourselves that we don't want to live with tension. It feels much better to let that go. Tense it up. Tension causes pain. We don't want pain. Let it go. And you know, sometimes we're in pain and don't we just tense up? We're like, oh God, that hurts. We actually can cause ourselves more pain by doing that. So if you can find a way to let that tension go and breathe and relax, you may have less pain. And then finally, our shoulder circle, same as we do in our warm-ups. We push down, inhale up, and exhale as we push down. Breathing at your own pace. It may not be the same as mine. All our lungs are different. And to end class, we have our right fist. Remember, it's a loose fist representing our strength. Our left fingers all together representing our friendship. Our thumb in representing our humility. So we have strength, friendship, humility. We put those together, and in mutual respect, we say namaste. So thank y'all. We'll do it again next week as we journey and just get better at learning these movements. So don't be hard on yourselves. Don't get discouraged. We'll get there, okay? I'll be available for you. You know how to get in touch with me if you have any questions. I'll upload this video to the YouTube page for you to review if you want to, or anything else that's on there. But just let me know what I can do for you, okay?
Okay, Jennifer, this is Sandra. Is your number 912-292-9052?
That's correct. That's my direct line.
Okay, I left you a voicemail. I'll have to go over this again. My Wi-Fi just kept going in and out, so I had to switch devices. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep, y'all just let me know, okay? And Sharita and Gwen, I'll talk to y'all about our advanced opportunity, okay?
Bless your heart.
Because I know y'all ready to really dive into part 2. All right. Well, y'all have a great day. Okay.
Ew.
All right. Love y'all.
Bye.